want to write your very first crochet pattern. Let's get right into it. In this video, I will tell you my personal approach to how I started pattern writing, how I started designing garments, and you can, take bits and pieces from me, from other people. This is not the only way, obviously, to do this. This is kind of my own personal process. Step number one to designing your very first crochet garment is having an idea. So gathering ideas, having some sort of inspiration. And you can draw the inspiration from anywhere, really. You can start by modeling your crochet garments on the styles of clothing that you already have in your closet. You can be inspired by, like, let's say having a pair of pants that don't have like a top that really goes with them. Sometimes I buy an article of clothing and I'm like, oh, this would look so good in this outfit. So then I'm almost like compelled to make that item to match like an article of clothing I already have. Sometimes it's inspiration drawn from like nature. It could be anything, but you need some sort of an idea, you need some sort of inspiration. And we have to be really, really careful, obviously, to not copy someone else's idea and then attempt to profit from it. So it is really important that you don't just like see someone else's crochet knitted garment and think, oh, I could make that, and then freehand it and then write your own pattern and then sell it. So do be careful with that. Sometimes I do browse like really popular clothing brands just to see like what are the trends, like what are we even making right now, what's in season. So once you have an idea, step number two is to get that idea on paper. And it could be written description, it could be sketches, it could be whatever. And before you say, Anastasia, like, I cannot draw, I'm right there with you. I am horrible at sketching the body. So I actually, like, a lot of times have gone online and searched up, like, okay, how do you draw a torso? How do you just, like, very roughly sketch, like, a mannequin, so that I could draw, like, the shape of my article of clothing that I wanted. And that is my preference, personally, is sketching. And I'll show you a little bit of my sketches. Okay, so I actually have my sketchbook here, and this is actually a brand new sketchbook, so I haven't like written that much in it. But yeah, I just like they don't have to be good. They don't have to be good, right? So I make little sketches, and then I make little notes, and I write my pattern right there with it. See, so here I was deciding like what kind of shapes went together for a crochet vest. So yeah, another little sketch. I have a little mind map. You get the idea. Get that idea down on paper. Step number three. Once you have a whole bunch of sketches, narrow it down. Okay, so you need like 3 ideas tops. So my next suggestion is, once you have your sketches narrowed down, you need to pick a stitch that you're going to use to make this garment. And I personally started with good old single crochets, right? The easiest stitch that exists. And my very first top was made just straight up with single crochets. I thought they would be stretchy, but they were not. That's a story for another time. Now I use crochet stitch books. Okay, and I'll link these below, but these are kind of my favorites, and these are the ones that I have. And as you can see, there's lots of little like stickies for the stitches that I have chosen. So you're free to, take inspiration from these. And sometimes I see something and I'm like, oh, but I want to make this adjustment to the stitch. So you need to look at some stitches, pick some stitches. I suggest choosing something like 4 to 6 stitches and then matching those to the garments. Okay, so that is step number 4, is pick some stitches. Okay, so step number 5 is you need to choose some yarn. And I I'm a bit of a yarn hoarder, so I always have a lot of yarn on hand. So I like to, at step number 5, I like to go and open up my drawers and my cupboards and my closet and anywhere else I've hidden my yarn, and I like to look through it and decide, okay, what is the color scheme that I want? What is the thickness of the yarn that I want? What is the texture that I want? Like, what do I want it to look like? What is the season? Am I choosing, you know, like a warmer, heavier yarn, or am I choosing something lighter for summer, you know, breezy? So pick some yarns, and sometimes I pull out a whole bunch, okay, because I just need to like see them together and I need to look at the sketch, look at the stitch, and look at your yarn. And you know, this is where the creativity really comes through, is like the combination of these 3 things, and choosing and playing around with that combination. Oh my god, I think this is the most fun step. I love this step. So that's step number 5, is choosing some yarns. Step number 6 is you need to now make some samples, make some swatches with the yarns that you have chosen and the stitches that you have chosen. Okay, and sometimes I make like 10, 20 swatches before I can be like, oh, this and this will make the perfect garment. You know, and sometimes you get more ideas flowing as you make the swatch. You're like, oh my god, I want to make a sweater that looks like this, blah, blah, blah. So it's all a part of like the idea brainstorming creative process. And it also gives you a chance to like play around with the hook size, see like, do I want it more drapey? Do I want it like thicker and like a little bit of a stiffer fabric created from it? So, you know, play around with it, make the swatches. You cannot go from the sketch to the stitch to the garment with no swatch. You need to make the swatch. Step number 7, you've got your sample, you have your yarn, you have your sketch, you have a rough idea of what you want it to look like. Now you need the sizing, right? Step number 7 is sizing. And I'm gonna be totally honest with you, don't overcomplicate it, okay? Make a bunch of chains. Then I literally would hold up the chain to like, let's say my chest or my shoulders and be like, I think that's good enough. And from there, it's really just playing around with it. If you're really good at the math, you can look at the swatch that you've made and essentially compare that to the chain and see, oh, with my swatch, does my fabric shrink? With this stitch, does it expand? And then see like, at what level does it shrink or expand, and then go from there. But to be honest, I, for a long time at the beginning, eyeballed the crap out of it. Once you have your chain and you've decided that you need this to be a multiple of 4 for the stitch, you're gonna make your chain, you know, a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. Think about the ease on your garment. Is it gonna be a loose garment? Is it gonna be form-fitting? Is it, you know, gonna have a little bit of ease, you know, that classic fit. So think about the fit that you want and adjust your chain from there. And then also make sure that you have the correct multiple of stitches for the design that you've chosen. Step number 8. So you have now decided how many chains you're gonna need. Now you need to make your garment. Okay, so you are now ready to make your garment. For the construction of this garment, I am really encouraging you to make the first one simple. Rectangles. Make it rectangle. So now it's time to crochet your garment, and really step 8 is all about making sure that you write down every single step. Every single step. I know what you're thinking. Oh, I can make it and then I can go back and write the steps after. No. No, you cannot, because I've been there and I thought that as well. No, you need to write down every single step as you make your garment. Okay, here I decreased, blah, blah, blah. There I increased, blah, blah, blah. I did this many rows. And furthermore, you should take photos of the critical steps. Okay, if you want to make this a pattern later, you need to take photos. And that is step number 8. And this is going to take you the absolute longest. And step number 8 comes with a lot of frogging, right? So please be prepared for that. There's just no way. Well, I mean, maybe if a miracle happens, you might be able to make your first garment on your first try, but absolutely was not my experience. I crocheted and frogged my first freehand garment 7 to 10 times because there's a lot of learning that happens in that process. You realize that, oh, my fabric ends up being way tighter than I thought it was going to be, or it ends up being looser than I thought it was going to be. So there's a lot of adjustments. Like, don't be afraid to frog. It's okay. It will work out in the end. It's okay to frog, take pictures, write everything down. Okay? And that is step 8. Okay, so step 9 is now wrapping up this garment, taking some final photos, maybe blocking, and typing up the pattern. Okay, so for the pattern, I'm a fan of made to measure patterns. So my best suggestion to you would be like recreating this whole process that you have gone through, scrap the frogging, and explain in your instructions exactly how you arrived at your final garment. So the reason I like to write made to measure patterns, even though I do have some, standard sized ones, is because I can explain exactly how I measured on my body. I'd be like, measure around the fullest part of your chest. Okay, and then create your chain 10% longer than your measurement, or whatever, or 4 inches longer than your measurement, or 2 inches less than the measurement. So it really depends on your garment, on your stitch, but essentially then your job is to just like transfer everything that you have written down throughout the pattern, throughout the making of your garment, onto a document, make it pretty, but make it like easy to follow. From there, you'll insert your photos, blah, blah, blah. There you go. You've got a pattern. A couple more steps. This is if you would like to sell the pattern or post it somewhere for other people to use, which most of us, do want that. We want to get that work out there. So since we've gone through the hassle of like doing all of this, we want to share it with other people so they can make it too. Once you've got your stuff written down, everything is good, you've proofread it. The next step, so I guess 10, step 10 is now testing the pattern. You cannot sell your pattern for money until you've made sure that you've gotten feedback and you've edited the pattern and it's as good as it can be, right? And even after that process, like your first, I want to say like 5 patterns are not going to be that great. And to be honest, that's the case with mine as well. Like I have 5 patterns, maybe more, that I'm no longer like that proud of. And the funny thing is that they took the longest to make and write and perfect. However, now I like them the least. Now your job is to test the pattern. And you can do this on your social media, you can ask your friends to make it, but your goal is to see if other people can recreate the same garment with different yarn for different sizes, and you want their feedback. Like what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and be open to that feedback. Like personally, I love the testing process because I received the most valuable, insightful feedback ever from that process. And you have to be open to taking that feedback. If you are and you're ready to be humbled, it is an amazing experience. It really, really is, because this is kind of where the community comes together. People are excited to make your pattern. People are excited to give their thoughts on it, and this is the best way to perfect your pattern and to improve it as much as possible. Okay, and then once your testing is done, you've got all your feedback, you've made all your edits, your pattern is ready. Congratulations. You're probably like 3 months into this process, but you're finally done, and now you can sell your pattern. or post it for free, or just share it with your friends. For yourself, like, you can now recreate this item and not forget, and make it for your friends and your family, and this is your baby. Congratulations, you're done. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you enjoyed hearing a little bit about my process. Again, I want to really emphasize that, like, this is how I do it. This is my own personal process, so it doesn't have to be yours, but this is one way to do it. If you want more videos like this, please let me know. If you liked this video, consider subscribing. I would love that. And if you want to check out some of my patterns, just for reference, I'll link them below. Okay, well, thanks for watching.